Welcome everyone to the Ordinary Council meeting for March 2024. Pursuant to Council's Code of Meeting Practice Policy, 2 public forum sessions will be held during the Council meeting. 1 public forum session will be held following the acknowledgement of the Broken Hill mining history to hear submissions from the public on matters listed for consideration at this meeting and to also hear submissions on general matters. And the other public forum session will be held prior to confidential matters and will consider submissions from the public on matters considered by Council at this meeting only. All councillors undertook an oath or an affirmation at the beginning of their term of office and declared to undertake the duties of the office of councillor in the best interest of the people of the Broken Hill local government area, the city of Broken Hill, and that they will faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, power and authorities discretions invested in them under the Local Government Act 1993 or any other act to the best of their ability and judgment. This council meeting is being live streamed via YouTube and recorded and published online via council's website. To those present in the meeting today, by participating in this public meeting, you're consenting to your image, voice and comments being recorded and published. The Mayor and/or General Manager have the authority to pause live stream if comments or debate are considered defamatory, otherwise inappropriate for publishing. Participants are advised that they may be subject to legal action if they engage in unlawful behaviour or commentary. We have nil apologies, nil leave of absence. Councillor Boland, deliver the prayer, please.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. Almighty God, we ask you to invoke your blessing upon this council, direct and prosper our deliberations to the advancement and true welfare of the people of the council area, our state and Australia. Amen.
Thank you, Councillor Boland. Councillor Gallagher.
Yes, I acknowledge the traditional owners of the land upon which we meet today, the land of Winnicali people, and pay respect to those elders past, present and emerging.
Thank you, Councillor Gallagher. Councillor Chandler.
We take time to reflect, remember and honour the over 800 miners that lost their lives and those that were crippled or maimed on the line of load. We thank the brave miners and their wives who were part of the 1919-1920 strike that lasted over 500 days and delivered a 35-hour working week. Mine is our past and our future.
Thank you, Councillor Chandler. The first public forum session of 15 minutes will consider submissions from the public regarding matters listed for consideration at this meeting and also on general matters. The public have been advised through notices in the Barrier Truth on Council's website to register by 4 p.m. today if they wish to address Council during the public forum session. Members of the public who have registered to address Council will be given preference, and then if time permits, anyone else present in the public gallery may address Council. Speakers are allocated 2 minutes to address Council. We have nil registrations. Would anyone from the gallery? Pete? Oh. Just grabbing the microphone. Thanks, Peter.
I just like to say, if it ever comes to pass that Far West becomes the 7th state of Australia, that
Here you go, Peter.
the pre-predominant of Broken Hill is June Bronhill, and the state should be named Bronhill. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Would love to become our 7th state. Back in the old days, that was one of our wishes. That's all from the public gallery. Move on to minutes for confirmation. Do we have a mover for the minutes to be accepted?
Move the minutes.
Move Councillor Allgate, seconded. Councillor Chandler. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Disclosures of interest. Any disclosures of interest?
I've got one on the further reports. Item number 1, correspondence report, category 2, club grants, non-pecuniary, as general manager of the club that partakes in club grants, and I'll leave the chamber for that item.
Thank you, Councillor Boland. Any further conflicts of interest? We move on to mayoral minutes. Mayoral minute number 1 is that the mayoral minute number 3/24 dated March 12, 2024 be received, that council retrospective approves the urgent advocacy efforts undertaken by the Mayor to seek funding from the New South Wales Government in order that Allison House can remain open until the end of 2024 school year, to ensure that the well-being of students is not impacted and students can continue their education unimpeded at the Broken Hill School campus for the remainder of the year. This will also allow Allison House Committee to options to publicise the facility and source the required number of students to operate the service self-sustainably in 2025 and beyond. Seconded, Councillor Hickey. This was a really important one, as people would have read. Allison House was considering closing or announced they were going to close. This is too important institution to allow that to happen. So our Deputy Mayor Hickey has done a bit of work, and I'll hand over to him.
Thanks, Mayor Kennedy. Yeah, I've been to Toowoomba and Packsaddle in the last fortnight and spoken to people on the way and up there. They're talking that there's about 80 kids in the bush at the moment. The Allison House Committee had actually decided 4 years ago that it had all gone to corporate in the area and there's no children coming on. And then when their funds run out, they would close. And I've indicated to them that how many kids there are in the bush, and there's a lot more coming. And okay, they mightn't be quite ready yet, but in the next couple of years, it'll be more than important to have that facility, because I've seen, I was on that board for about 10 years with Peter Black, and we had 24 kids, and that was maximum, and there was a waiting list at all times. And that was only 20 years ago, and I think it's going to come back to that again now. It's just went through the years of where corporates bought all the properties, but they've now resold, and there's lots and lots of families back in the bush, and Pooncarie proves it. They had 3 years ago, they had 2 children at the school, then they got 10 in their preschool. Those 10 are now in the school, and there's 15 in the preschool. So there's an indication of what the change in the bush is, and it's more than important that this is done. It's $100,000 to keep it going for the rest of the year, and then they're going to need some help and assistance to work through and get it back on track. But it's more than important. That's why I think it was a good move of the council. We jump straight on it and help out. Thank you.
Look, the important thing is if council doesn't do this sort of thing, what will happen is we'll lose those children to Broken Hill forever, rather than have them come to Broken Hill where their families regularly spend money in Broken Hill. They will go to boarding schools outside of the area, and we lose those children and potentially those families to the area forever. So it's a really important one. Any other speakers? All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item number 2. That the mayoral minute number 4/24 dated March 21, 24 be received, that council approves the draft terms of the reference for the establishment of Broken Hill Education Working Group. The council appoints the mayor as the chairperson, deputy mayor as deputy chairperson, and the general manager of the Broken Hill Education Working Group. The council appoints an additional councillor, and I just asked, would Councillor Brown be interested in being on that committee? So the additional appointment be Councillor Brown. That council invites the New South Wales Minister for Education, New South Wales Shadowing Minister for Education, the Education Department's Peter Macbeth, the member for Barwon or representative, and the Teachers Association representatives from all Broken Hill primary and secondary schools to join the Broken Hill Education Working Group. The council advertised for nominations to fill the community representative positions on the working group. The inaugural meeting of the working group be held in April 24. The council thanks the state government for the decision that 2 schools will remain in the city, with Williama being rebuilt, and thanks the entire Broken Hill community for standing united and showing strong support to the government that it is vital for the ongoing livability and success of our students and education for 2 high schools to remain in the city. The council writes to the New South Wales Premier, New South Wales Treasurer, Minister for Education, Office of Coalition Leaders, Minister for Education, that in the instance that the entire Williama rebuild is not covered by the state's insurance, that a budget allocation is allowed and guaranteed for the 2024-25 state budget for the rectification of the current Williama High School, or for a new build to be completed on the Williama high school site dependent on the outcome from the hygienist report, which is late. But if we can keep the bit about the if it is short, that the budget will be confirmed. We have a seconder for that. Seconded, Deputy Mayor Hickey. Look, this is it's been devastating for the Broken Hill community, teachers, students, etc. But this is an opportunity now for the community to lead, to come up with a position that actually improves the education outcomes of students. Without a doubt, will set back a number of students a number of years, which is going to be disappointing. But it's important that the people that are in control limit the amount of damage that is done to the community, or those students, or those family members, or indeed the teachers that work there. I can see that with the insurance covering the cost of the rebuild, it's likely that we will end up with a pretty good facility that has the potential to, in the long term, have better outcomes for the education. But in the short term, we need to continue to advocate and lobby to ensure that we get the best outcomes we can. Would there be any other councillors? Councillor Brown?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I think this is a great opportunity to make sure that the new school is the best that it can be. I think there might be some very valuable experience we can draw on, from other places where schools have been, built recently, for various reasons. And I think it's really important to get the best floor plan, for example, and things like, and to make it, the most functional and convenient, and the best place for education. It really is a good opportunity, much better than it would have been had the school, just been the building just been remediated, so to speak. Yeah.
Yeah. What was, just quickly on that one, so what was explained during just a brief meeting with the Education Department and the infrastructure? So there is a number of different schools that people do build across the state, and they can be music schools, sport enhanced schools, mathematical schools. So that, as Councillor Brown is saying, it's really important that we actually get the school that best suits the Broken Hill community, and that's why this committee is so important. And it's so important that there will be community representation. There will be councillors, but there will also be teachers and education providers in there as well, because these are people that work day to day, but also parents are very important in finding out exactly what's needed. Councillor Turley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just curious, the principal of Williama High School wasn't included in the working group?
Yes, no, yes. So all secondary schools to join the Broken Hill Education Working Group.
Where's that one? Sorry, I might have missed it.
So Broken Hill primary and secondary schools to join the Broken Hill Education Working Group.
Just can't see it in the membership of the working group. It's just me. I'll just check with.
Yeah. Yeah, I do know. Yeah. So it's the Broken Hill Education Working Group is the Teachers Association representatives, which will be representatives of both the General Manager and myself did speak with the principal, and he was more than welcome to be on that, suggested the Teachers Association for the groups.
I just would like to see that the principal is included separately, and making sure we've got good representation from the unions, but making sure we've got the principals of the schools in there as well. Just because they're on the ground with the design, they'll be involved in the new build as well.
Look, I'll be happy to add at number 5, including both principals of the high schools that are involved. Happy to, yeah. Any other speakers?
Mayor Kennedy. Okay, Oh, good. Sorry. I was looking at my notes. I'm hoping, and I'm guessing this committee will also look at the outcomes for the students, the current Williama students going through a lot of disruptions. They've got through COVID. Now they're going through this. And I'd like to see, I would hope, and I'm guessing the committee would look into this with the government for them to get ATAR allowances as they come through their HSC, because I'd hate to see a student that would have been off to university to study their dream course and entered into their dream career to be a couple of ATAR points below the threshold due to a situation out of their control, and also the mental health and wellbeing of the students. I'm starting to hear through the community some horrible stories of students that just aren't coping. They've got existing mental health issues, etc. There's bullying issues where they can't get away from the student where they could when the big Williama campus was in operation. So I know the committee will look after the wellbeing of the students as well, and I wish them all the best, and I hope they get all the support they need in this disruptive time.
Thank you, Councillor Boland. Yes, the ATAR is very important, but what needs to be kept in mind as well, if your education has fallen behind, even if you meet those ATAR marks, and people, when they do go to university, it can be a difficult time anyway. And so if you're starting behind and you get into a course, if you don't have the background training once you get into that course, the likelihood is that you're going to fail. So it's very important that this be taken into account by the government, and I'm sure our committee will ensure that happens. It's not just about getting the ATAR to get in, it's making sure that you have the ability once you get into those courses to pass them. Any other speakers?
Just a comment,
Councillor Allgate.
Mayor Kennedy. I think it's worthwhile recording that the efforts that were put forward by the Council General Manager and the Mayor and Deputy, that their efforts in bringing this to the forefront and pursuing it with some vigour, albeit with some harsh words on occasions with the relative education representatives. But the lead role that the council played, I think, has been an important part of the decision-making process in the finish. Maybe if council had taken a back step and not done anything, maybe the same result would have occurred, but we don't know that. Yeah. I think the council's pressure and the efforts of both yourself and the General Manager are worthy of note.
I do thank you, Councillor Allgate. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. I have a late mayoral minute. It's written up on the board there for everyone to see. That council received the mayoral minute. The council write to the appropriate federal and state ministers and shadow minister for the ministers, as well as our federal and state local MPs, the Attorney General, advocating for the future and to provide financial assistance with a local presence for the Far West Legal Centre, Community Legal Centre, inclusive of all its entities, which include the Far West Community Legal Centre, Warrawar, staying domestic leaving violence and working domestic violence court advocacy services. We have a seconder for that. Second, Councillor Turley. I move this because it is important, and as was explained today during a presentation, there is actually only two bodies in town that actually have legal representation. One is Legal Aid, the other is the Far West Legal Community Centre. Without that, that means whoever gets in first holds out the conflicts, which means that they then would have to get private representation. The private representation is pretty scarce in the city. So if we do lose this service, and we lose this service completely, and it is being administered out of the town, but if the lawyers themselves are then based out of town, what we'll have is teleconferences, which just isn't good enough for a city of our size. So we need to, as soon as we can, advocate to get enough funding to ensure that they were able to employ lawyers, but they've also be able to partake and do all their regulatory requirements and also have additional money to move people to town. Any other speakers? Councillor Turley.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I raised this issue at our last council meeting, and I thank the General Manager for organising this afternoon's briefing. I think for everyone, when this was announced, there was great concern. Once we lose management outside of Broken Hill, we will certainly lose the service. We will not attract staff. They will not retain themselves in Broken Hill. This is quite an extensive service that if you look at the history of it, it was actually, I think, Barry Fowler, who was council's community development officer, was instigator for the legal service. One of our former councillors was one of the first CEOs of the service. It certainly is one that we should support, not because of the history, but because of the great service they deliver to our community. So I'm happy to support this. The only other part I would say is that we need to consider in the future the actual committee that could manage this organisation, because that's a weak link if the committee itself is made up external to Broken Hill. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers?
Just quickly, Mayor Kennedy, if I can.
Councillor Gallagher.
Yeah, I totally commend this mayoral minute. The situation is, as we all know, we've only got a couple of solicitors in town, and especially when Aboriginal Legal Service and have to have a conflict of interest with the even Warrawa at that stage, and also the Far West Legal Community Service is the only other option apart from private solicitors to assist people when they're needing legal advice and legal representation. And as we know, video links and so forth do not work. You have to have people come back into town, and that's an extra cost to the people of the Broken Hill community when we need legal advice. I commend this mayoral minute.
Thank you, Councillor Gallagher. Good to hear. Councillor Gallagher, for a long time, was on the other side, so he knows the importance of people having good lawyer representation. Without that, you can end up with some bad results for the people that should have that representation. So when you're hearing it from what was the other side, it just shows you how important it is. What's a real concern beyond the administration going out of the city, what was explained, we actually will probably not be able to get lawyers coming to the town. So that's probably even more significant than the administration itself, is the fact that we'll have no lawyers that will actually be based in Broken Hill. So it's vitally important that we do all we can as a council. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. We have nil notices of motion, nil rescission motions, nil reports from delegates. We move on to the Health and Building Committee. Item number 1 is the draft scores on the doors policy. Do we have a mover for that?
Move that way.
I move Councillor Gallagher, second to Councillor Hickey. Councillor Gallagher.
Yeah, it's good to see that's only going on for 28 days public exhibition. It's good to see that the council has taken a leading role in this, and it just shows the improvement that the council can work with the people who are going to sell items of food. It's going to see that you can improve it, and it's good to see we're working together.
Thank you, Councillor Gallagher. Deputy Mayor Hickey.
Yes, Mayor Kennedy. Having been part of the hospitality thing with my daughter and that, it is really important, and it's quite the shops strive to get as many points on their door as they can, and then they can brag it up, and they do it in their advertising and that, and it becomes quite, it's good. It's so good because it helps them keep really good standard in our cafes and shops. And it's great. So yeah, all for it.
I don't think it'd be underestimated or overestimated. The uptake's been really good. As it was explained by the General Manager, when scores go down, there's a concerted effort by those businesses to get those scores back up, and the general population start to ask, why aren't you a part of it? So this is a really good one that's used voluntarily more than anything, and it really is great, and it's good to hear from someone who was in the hospitality just how well it worked. Any other speakers?
Yeah. Whoops.
No. Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Sorry.
Councillor Jewett.
Not sure what I've done there. Yeah, no, I also think it's great. It's an equal and consistent sort of rating that people can trust across the board rather than reviews. You can have negative reviews that unfairly target businesses. Yep. You can have some businesses that may create positive reviews themselves that might not. So that's all that's sort of, you know what I mean? That's up in the air, whereas this is something that they can boast and know that it's legitimate and it's not unfairly targeting anyone. I think it's wonderful.
I do agree. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 2 is the minutes of the Friends and Flora and Fauna of the Barrier Ranges Community Committee meeting held 13th of February 2024. Councillor Brown, seconded. Councillor Allgate, Councillor Brown.
No, there's really nothing to add. It's business as usual, I think.
Yeah, thank you. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. We move on to policy in general. Item number 1, attendance at the LG New South Wales Rural and Regional Summit on May 9th. Can we have a mover for the recommendation?
Move the recommendation.
Seconded. Councillor Chandler. Councillor Boland said he would be in Sydney over that time. If you'd just like to add Councillor Boland there, Councillor Allgate. You happy to add Councillor Boland to the second, Councillor Chandler? All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 2 is the investment report for February 2024.
Move that way.
Seconded.
Seconded.
Councillor Allgate. Councillor Boland.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. All written there, all well balanced. The interest rates came, the inflation came out today a little bit higher than the RBA would be looking for, particularly in the top line inflation, but we'll see what interest rates do. But having cash tied up in bank interest, and that is a good investment strategy right now where the interest rate's sitting.
Thank you, Councillor Allgate. All good.
So Boland said it all. I noticed on page 54, the council averaged 4.75% as against the bank bill index number of 4.1. So, you know, that's a good reflection on the council's accountancy treasury section.
Yeah, for sure. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 3 is the Broken Hill City Council Report 3324 dated March 18, Aged Care Update. We have a move for the recommendation. Move Councillor Page, seconded Councillor Gallagher. Councillor Page. No.
What about now?
I can. Yep.
Yeah, this committee's working very well. At the last meeting, I asked for the management to put together a piece of correspondence to the state and federal government, and both should hang their head in shame in regard to the treatment of the aged care and the DV, which is the domestic violence. And there's a long list of areas where the needs to change, and it should have changed 30 years ago. And the state and federal government say they've got billions of dollars going into these very important issues, and we're not getting our share here. And as a town, we're missing out on being able to look after our people. Aged care, we've got the brand new accommodation in town, and because the silly changes the federal government have put in place, we don't have enough workforce to maintain the people going into those locations. And we had a briefing today on domestic violence, and it came out very clear they're lacking in funding in regard to the lawyers and whatever to supply the service there. So I repeat myself, state and the Premier and the Prime Minister should hang their head in shame. They know what the needs are. They're just full of promises they don't follow through. And it's time the whole of Australia approached the Prime Minister and the Premier to say, you know, make sure the money's spent, it's in the budget, do something about it. We as councillors, you as mayor, we shouldn't have to go begging to those people. They know what the problems are and they're too bloody lazy to fix the problem. So, you know, as a council, we've always been leaders in regard to bringing issues. So when you go to Canberra, I'd like to, I know you'll put the case forward that they're letting the whole nation down in regard to looking after those old people, the people suffering with family issues that can be fixed and should be fixed. And last of all, the Aboriginal communities, they've got the same issues and they're not being dealt with and they're not being fixed. The problems can be fixed, and it's a bloody shame the politicians, and I shouldn't blame them really, it's the Prime Minister and the Premier that make the main things available. They're the ones that should get off their backside and do something about it.
For sure. Any other speakers? What's really good here is that council will establish a task force of key stakeholder bodies across the ageing and health sector to research and progress the reclassification of the modified Monash model from a MMM3 to an MMM6. That'll go a long way to making sure there's enough funding within the sector to ensure that the appropriate people are employed. What people need to note is on page 73. So if you look at November 2023, there were 23 beds that were available but could not be occupied at the time. 3 beds were occupied in the hospital awaiting access to aged care. There was none occupying hospital beds waiting for aged care assessment. Come February 2024, we now have 27 available beds that can't be used. There are 14 beds at the hospital occupied waiting for access to aged care, and also 4 occupied at the hospital bed waiting for aged care assessment. So we now have 18 people taking up spots at our hospital. That's 18 beds in a hospital that's way too small for our community anyway. 18 people that will either be forced to leave Broken Hill, or alternatively, they stay at the hospital, and we are well below what we need. It's only a matter of time before elective surgeries are cancelled, or people are asked to leave the hospital early, putting their health at risk, because you can't have it both ways. You can't have almost 20% of the beds at the hospital used for aged care and not have an effect on the acute care across the city. Councillor Page?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, there's a long list of areas that have problems, and the biggest problem is we're not training the younger generation coming on. Those jobs that we don't have trained people in aged care, child mining centre, you can go on and on and on. We had a briefing today about new lawyers coming through. This nation are not training the workforce for the future of the country. And that has to be changed, because if you train the people, you don't have to bring them from all around the world to fill the jobs that our younger generation should be trained to fill. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, look, nursing is a particular one when they actually used to do the nursing in hospital. Nurses were almost fully trained after 2 or 3 years of education. They were also used to nurse patients. So I think the government's gone down the wrong road in a lot of sectors, and it does need to be improved. But for Broken Hill now, we're actually in a crisis, and that is without a doubt. People have been forced to leave Broken Hill. A number of elderly people have either moved to Adelaide, Mildura, or elsewhere. So, or even Wilcannia. So we're at the point now, it's no longer if, it is happening. And something needs to be done, and it needs to be done urgently. Any other speakers? All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 4 is the minutes of the Audit and Risk and Improvement Committee meeting held 16th of February. Have a mover for that recommendation.
Move the recommendation.
Councillor Allgate, seconded. Councillor Jewett. Councillor Allgate.
Oh, there's not a great deal to say on that. It's all in the report, Mayor Kennedy. That particular committee is involved in every aspect of the council's operation, and in some way or another what the Audit and Risk Committee does, or the decisions they make, makes the whole council a better operation and a better unit in itself. The one thing that I have difficulty with is the new legislation that takes away the right of a councillor or councillors to be on that committee and to be voting members. On the one hand, the government's talking about the profile of councillors being involved in everything and being seen to be knowledgeable about what's happening on the council. And on the other hand, they're saying that they've taken councillors away from one of the most important committees that the council operates. And it's just lunacy as far as I'm concerned. It makes you wonder, don't we do the job correctly, or what the hell's going on?
We're already doing the job. That's what's so disappointing about this this new legislation, Councillor Allgate, is for about at least the last couple of years, people coming in here saying how good the Audit and Risk Committee is doing and how much information is provided through that committee. And then because some councils didn't have it, we now have them implementing a system which is later on in this business paper where we have to pick one councillor to be on a committee when we had 4 or 5. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 5 is the minutes of the Ageing World Advisory Committee meeting held 7th of February 2024. Do we have a mover for that?
I'll move that way.
Councillor Allgate, seconded Councillor Page. Councillor Allgate.
From Councillor Page's comments earlier, and Councillor Gallagher is involved heavily in it. The one problem I see with the Ageing World Committee is a committee that wants to be very active and is doing its best. But one of the points of hindrance, in my view, is that the committee hasn't been able to get all of the service providers together. I mean, I've said it time and time again, but until you get all the service providers together, and until, the way I see it, until you can get all the service providers to liaise with one another and work together instead of the duplication and that of services, the committee is fighting an uphill battle. I think the committee's got a lot of potential, and the people that do go there, from service providers and people involved in the aged service industry, they've been very cooperative. But there's too few of them, and they're not there often enough. And I think the council's got to have a concerted effort to try and rectify that situation. There are so many different agencies in Broken Hill that provide similar services. We need to get them to the table.
Any other, Councillor Page?
In regard to Councillor Allgate's comments, I fully agree, because it wasn't so many years ago, a lot of those services were provided and the funding was auspiced through the council. Yep. Council had a magnificent system in place, and the federal has gone and put it all out to private enterprise. Private enterprise is not the answer on every occasion.
I couldn't agree more, Councillor Page. Just interesting, at the conference last year in Canberra, we had some federal person getting up saying that local government needs to be more involved in providing those services that they took off of local government. Instead of the one provider, they put it out to market, and what's happening is there's a duplication of services that don't provide near as much as to the end user as what was when it was one funding body that went to one organisation that provided it. So we now are in a situation where we have the same federal people begging councils to take on what they took off of them. So, Councillor Allgate.
Mayor Page, thank you. It's each of these, Mayor Kennedy. Mayor Page over there. That's the second time I've done that in a week. I apologise for.
No, you're all right, councillor. Go.
No, I apologise to.
Oh, yeah, well, that's fair enough. That's apology accepted.
The,
I think that's the first time you've ever apologised.
yeah, it's not in writing. The thing is, Mayor Kennedy, that each of the services, each of the organisations that provide services, they've got a structure made up of administration, all the administrative costs and overheads and all the rest of it, and it's the same with every one.
Yeah.
Whereas you could have one controlling body that could have all a large umbrella and all these working underneath them somehow or other. I don't know.
Like it used to.
Pardon?
Like it used to be.
Like it used to be. Well, the council, as Councillor Page said, the council's HAC services were second to none.
Yeah. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 6, the minutes of the 355 Youth Advisory Committee meeting held March 5, 2024. We have a mover for that.
Yeah, move that.
Moved Councillor Deputy Mayor Hickey. Seconded Councillor Turley. Said that was you. Yep, Councillor Turley, Councillor Hickey, Deputy Mayor Hickey.
But, yeah, quite agree. The $4 by $50 gift cards.
Yep.
Yeah, as written.
Any other speakers? No. All those in Councillor Turley? Oh no.
No, I wasn't, but I will then.
All right.
Yeah, very good and encouraging, Mr. Mayor. Just to say around those gift cards, we're looking at, committee was looking at ways of how we encourage young people to participate in the Youth Advisory Committee, and it was suggested as a way forward that, you know, if we want to hear their voice, we should consider some kind of system that reimburses them for their time. The staff will come back if that's an option or not. But in the meantime, can I just say that Broken Hill City Council for Youth Week this year is actually encouraging the entrepreneur of youth, and they'll be asking our young people to really show that side and to have their own stands like a market, selling their own goods, be it jewellery making or stamps or artwork or cake making, whatever it is, so they can start to develop their own business models. So I just want to congratulate our staff at council for that model.
Thank you, Councillor Turley. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Further reports. You have a conflict, Councillor Boland, item number 1. Item number 1 is correspondence report, category 2, club grants. Do we have a mover for that? Councillor Gallagher. Seconded. Councillor Jewett, Councillor Gallagher.
No, Mayor Kennedy, the report's before us. It's what we've received from the Minister, Mr. Harris, in relation to it. It's fairly self-explanatory.
Yeah, look, those club grants are really important to be administered locally. I don't always trust the correspondence that is received from ministers. We need to, as a community, continue to keep the pressure on to make sure that those club grants, all categories of club grants are administered locally, so that we actually make sure that those club grants remain in our community and don't go over and be administered and used in the inner suburbs of Sydney, because if we do let it go, that is exactly what will happen. So need to keep on doing it. Councillor Hickey?
Yes, Mayor Kennedy, when you read the letter from the Minister, the reply, you can read lots of things into it.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think it was very clear and straightforward at all. And I think we need to go back with that, do that review in the survey. We need to answer that survey and put our thoughts in there as well, because he's got this, but let's not leave it at that.
Do you want to add to the recommend or the resolution that, or the motion that we actually do fill out that survey? Are you happy to add that, Councillor Gallagher?
Most definitely. It's very wishy-washy, that report, and that's why, you know, as you said, Mayor Kennedy, we know where our greens should come. It should be spent locally. It shouldn't go somewhere else.
Any other speakers? All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Someone like to... Thanks, Simon. Oh, thanks. That was passed as written, Councillor Boland, and to fill out the survey. That was within the correspondence. Item number 2 is appointment of councillor member to the Audit and Risk and Improvement Committee. We have a mover for that.
Move that way.
Move Councillor Boland, seconded.
Seconded.
Councillor Allgate. Councillor Boland or Allgate, would you like to be on that committee? Councillor Allgate, you're a keen one for the Audit and Risk.
Easy.
I'd like to nominate you to the position.
Councillor Boland.
Yep, happy to be on that.
You're only allowed to have one, Councillor Boland.
Sorry, Councillor Allgate, that's fine. So
Yeah, just one non-voting member. That's so we don't even now have a councillor that can actually vote on something that comes to our council that we can dismiss. Councillor Turley.
Madam Mayor, Mr. Mayor, sorry. Just wondering then, given that there are reports that go to the Audit Risk Committee that do not come to council and they're considered at the Audit Risk, why can't those reports then also come to council?
They should, Councillor Turley, but the reality is we don't have to accept what the Audit Committee says or anything else. So this is how ridiculous the decision to do this is that ultimately that councillors make the decisions, but we're not allowed to be part of a system that is looking at such important things. So I guess now what ends up happening, we end up duplicating everything because councillors do need to still see all that information. That'll be on the hub, or we can have a separate report.
Sorry. Yeah, I was thinking that we've been missing out on reports, and for a lot of people that did go or observed it online, they could hear what was happening. The reality is there are other reports. I mean, I've been on committees. We have an Audit and Risk Committee, but those reports may still come to our board. So can we have a review of that to see what could come to council for consideration? I understand that under Audit Risk, there is certain legislation that will prohibit us making different decisions, but at least we can have a decision.
No, we can make the decisions what we want. So I suppose what we should do is for one of the policy and general meetings, look at what we actually put in reports for discussion. Just sometime. Councillor Page.
I've been saying this for years, Mr. Mayor, that the state government's very happy to take local out of local government. This makes it very clear.
Yeah, it certainly does. But at the end of the day, we still make the decision. You know, we're not allowed to see what the information is, but we make the decision. Councillor Allgate.
Mayor Kennedy, just following on what Councillor Turley said, I thought we all got the minutes.
No, you all get that. You get it all. But so what Councillor Turley's saying is, as far as reports going to the committee meetings and that, let's have a look what we want actually in the agendas as opposed to what are on the hub. Where we all have access. So we all have access to the reports. It's what reports that we'll have dealt with via our committee system, more or less.
It'd be a hell of a lot of work to go through and time consuming to go right through all that stuff.
Oh, well, you probably wouldn't do it, but it's more about what reports that you want. But that's what happens when they do this. Suddenly you lose confidence. So you then want the reports going to another form. Councillor Brown.
Mine's just a quick question. I assume that councillors will still be able to attend these meetings.
Well, I don't know. It says one non-voting member.
Yeah, through you. Yeah, I'd have to seek clarification on that, Councillor Brown. I thought the same thing. It's one non-voting member. So reading those, interpreting it like that, it means one councillor can be in attendance, no other observers, but I will seek clarification.
And that's what you get from it. Or otherwise it'd be a voting one with as many observers as you like, or non-voting council members as you like. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 3, development contribution levy development application, library redevelopment project, waiver of levy. Do we have a mover for that?
Move that way.
Move Councillor Allgate, seconded Councillor Turley. Councillor Allgate.
It's simply a normal expectation, Mayor Kennedy.
Yes, I think building a library for the community is already spending the money on the community. Councillor Turley, you'd like to speak on that? No.
Probably took the words out of my mouth.
Yeah, exactly.
This is common sense approach to doing this.
Yeah. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 4 is the local traffic committee meeting held Tuesday, March 5. Councillor Brown, moved Councillor Brown, seconded Councillor Allgate. Councillor Brown.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, just a couple of things it's worth sort of pointing out. The parking for the Uber and the rideshare companies now will, if the recommendation is passed by council tonight, they will have a couple of the current taxi spaces at the airport, and I know that's been a bit of a problem because legally they couldn't stop at the taxi ranks to let their customers alight. So that hopefully will be welcome. And the other issue is one that's been around for a few months, and that is safety of people on walk tours. I think it's really important that we don't do anything to inhibit the walk tour people, those groups, because it's a really important part of our tourism offerings. But it's potentially a bit dangerous there at the roundabout. We've had a lot of reports about possible ways to modify the roundabout, zebra crossings at a different spot and that kind of thing. And I think that will go back now to the council officers to have a look at that and see what can be done to make it a bit safer while still encouraging it.
Thank you. Councillor Turley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just having trouble finding it, but was there an issue, Councillor Brown, around making a designated parking spot in Argent Street in the main block for an emergency vehicle? I just was a bit concerned.
Yes, yes, that is one there. It's unfortunate, really, that they want to take that'll be one space in that very hotly contested block between Chloride and Oxide Street. I think it's the Department of Justice or one of those government officers are there, and they've requested, I think they originally wanted 2 spots there, but we've said they can have 1. But it's a bit of a pain that it's going to happen, so that they can, if they need it for emergency vehicles of various kinds. But that's the recommendation at the moment.
Right, thank you. Another one that just be brought up, if Councillor Brown would be happy to take it, or our manager for infrastructure, just the taxi ranks at the front of the ANZ or the side of the ANZ building with not so many taxis. People have questioned the number of taxis that are positions that are required in that area.
It hasn't come up yet. Maybe it's something we can take to the looking around it.
Because there's the taxis.
Yes, or maybe
as they were.
Well, perhaps there could be a space for the Ubers as well. I don't know, but it doesn't seem to be something that's being actively pursued by anyone at the moment. But we can certainly make a note of that and bring it up at the next meeting.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Just a comment. Sorry, just a comment quickly. Emergency services, if they want to park and there's an emergency, they'll block a road off. They'll block it off. Exactly what they want to do, they'll do it.
Yeah,
and for as long as they need and for as long as they want. It doesn't need a designated site for that.
So exactly, I agree, Councillor Gallagher. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 5 is the action list. Councillor Gallagher, move that.
I'll move that way.
Seconded. Councillor Boland. Councillor Gallagher.
Just far too much amber at the present stage. There's about 5.5 pages of it.
Much amber,
quite a bit green, but it's good to see we're moving forward.
All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Question 16, questions taken on notice from the last meeting. We have a mover for that. Move Councillor Turley, seconded Councillor Allgate. Councillor Turley, you'd like to speak to that? No, just moving it.
Oh no, I just appreciate the issues that I'd raised about the Community Legal Centre and the parking at the airport and the site visit that we were able to do, and also the Uber parking at the airport and ride share we were able to have addressed. So thank you to the staff.
Thank you. Councillor Allgate, speak to that.
I just reflect what Councillor Turley said. The meeting at the airport was worthwhile. Surprisingly, there was an abundance of free parking spaces on the afternoon, and there's no doubt that before the end of, or by the end of the year, we'll have an extra 81 parks there, so there should never be a problem at any time.
No, I think it's really important that it was acknowledged that we are doing a new car park out there, sealed car park that will hold 81 spots, which is 20 more than what currently is held in the existing. So we end up with 140 parks instead of 60. So
it's all part of the airport master plan. So everything's fine.
Yeah, all good. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Questions for the next meeting? Do we have Councillor Turley?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a little list. Do you want me to do it first?
Yeah, no, you go. You go.
Yep, certainly. I think Stan Goodman wrote to the paper, to the BDT, or the BT, Barrier Truth. So this, in this month, raising the issues about the War Memorial, the state of the War Memorial, the broken plaques. Where is this up to? Can we write and ask for a meeting with Crown Lands to discuss this? And if the minister does visit, that we actually ask for a meeting with the minister. I think it's an important part. I was on the committee back in the day, the Line of Load committee, and certainly what we wanted to see that it was preserved, and certainly do not want to see, it's like seeing a grave broken when you see those plaques broken. So it needs to have an asset management plan in place for it. So that was one issue, Mr. Mayor. There was another issue that was raised with me, and it was about our Broken Hill City Council heritage walking tours. And I just couldn't get the sense of where this was, and maybe the general manager will know. Apparently there was a promise about a shaded area for a historical walking tour, and they asked me if I knew where we're up to with that shaded tour.
I'll quickly just answer that one. So they actually were raising a bit of money, but then asked council to do that. The plans were put in and it's cost a considerable amount of money. That doesn't mean it won't happen. I've spoken to a number of those members. So they need to get a plan together that is affordable, and council should be able to do it fairly. You got any more information?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I might just pass over to our Director of Infrastructure who's looking after the project. Thanks, Mr. Howard.
Thank you, General Manager. Through the Mayor. Yes, so we originally went out for request for quotation, and as the Mayor stated, it was came back considerably high. So our project officer at the moment is liaising with the companies that provided quotations to try and bring that cost down, as well as liaising with Ross Howes and the walking group. Our project officer spoke with Mr. Howes yesterday and gave him an update on where this is, and we're hoping that within the next month we'll be closer to starting that project.
Great, thank you. Where is the shade going to be? I'm sorry, just wasn't a sense of it.
So next to, on the police station side, so where the old shade shelters were, they'll be in that location as well, with a footpath will be installed leading up to it. Thank you.
Thank you. And my last one was that our federal member, Mark Colton, has announced he will not be contesting the seat. I hope that council would consider some kind of morning tea or afternoon tea and host him before he departs.
I think we'll have a nice civic reception for our federal member before. We've got plenty of time. What is it, about May next year or something? Yeah. Any other?
Just a quick update on our sign. The first of our road signs will be up by the 3rd week of this month.
Oh, excellent. Of April 3rd. Yeah. Any other?
Yeah.
No, Councillor Jewett.
Just on a different subject, just relating to sort of recreation in the city, which is extremely important, and we do have a fair bit around, but it is a common thing that people say that there's nothing to do in Broken Hill. Item 1 in the action list report has been sitting there quite stagnant for some time, just in regards to item 1 in the action list report, about 3.5 years. Obviously, the correspondence is to do with the Speedway and just getting access or a lease to maybe extend the motocross. I know I had a lot of good memories as a kid going out to the Speedway. Is there any chance we can not force, but arrange maybe a face-to-face? Like, it just seems like it's been going ignored. It's going to sit there forever. And is there any way that this can be revived or ultimately removed if it's not going anywhere? Is there any future in the Speedway?
Yeah. So unfortunately, this is another thing where native title is overlaying what's happening, and
but they're not even responding. Like, there's no, it's just being ignorant. Really.
Yeah, so council can definitely speak with Crown Lands, but ultimately, it's that Crown.
3.5 years. You managed the meetings you could have. I mean, it's great with the go-kart and other things are happening, but it's iconic. The Speedway of Broken Hill, it's just sitting there.
Yeah, again, a native title. And as really you're probably already aware, they have been trying to contact and deal. Yeah. It's being held up. Council can talk to Crown Lands, but each month we do. Each month, council makes contact with Crown Lands to do what council can do to try and progress it.
Correspondence or verbal or both?
Both.
Right.
So, yes, council would love to see it all happening again. It's nothing council's doing to hold it up. Council wants it to happen. Council doing all it can to make it happen. The legislation, when council didn't put in a defence back in 2015, this is what we face.
There's just so much land out there and so much space, and it would just be so good for everyone involved.
Yep.
Everyone.
So you can pass that on to everyone concerned. Council contacts monthly to try and hurry it. Any other speakers? No? We move on to public forum session. The second public forum session will consider submissions from the public regarding matters that were considered by council at this meeting only. Speakers are allocated 2 minutes to address council. Anyone from over that side? Yep. Mr. Bollocks, Peter.
Yeah. I'm Peter Bullock. I'm from 185 Micah Street. I'd like to, since you've just mentioned about the Aboriginals and with their state of play at the moment, I think you'll find in Creden Street, when there's heavy rain, there's no curb and channeling, and there's at least one house that is being flooded. I think you might have to look into it. Thank you.
Yeah, just so you understand, Mr. Bollocks, about the native title issue. The native title issue is a combined thing where Crown vacant land is native title. So there's no one group to speak to. You can't speak to the native title holders or Crown Lands because there's two groups involved, which then makes it very difficult to resolve anything. You can't, if you had a deal with, for example, the native landholders, you still don't have a deal with the Crown Lands. So that's why it's a very difficult situation. We'll just wait for people to come back in. I've signed that. I've signed it before. There you go. Just the general manager to move what was passed in closed session.
Thanks, Mayor Kennedy. Council resolved in confidential 1, Broken Hill City Council Report number 39/24, dated February 28, 2024, proposed lease of Suite 2, 23 to 27 Bromide Street. Council resolved 1, that Broken Hill City Council Report number 39/24, dated February 28, 2024, be received. 2, that Council grant a new lease to existing tenant Muhammad Liz Dexter at Suite 2, 23-27 Bromide Street for a period of 12 months with an option to renew for a further 2 years with the new lease to reflect the terms and conditions of the previous lease. 3, that the Mayor and General Manager sign the new lease under the common seal of Council. Item 2, confidential minutes for confirmation of the council meeting held 28th of February 2024. Council resolved 1, that Broken Hill City Council Report number 45/24 dated March 5, 2024 be received. 2, that the confidential minutes of the ordinary council meeting held 28th February 2024 be confirmed. Thanks, Mayor Kennedy.
Thank you, General Manager. That brings the meeting to a close at 7:38. Thank you for your attendance.